Elizabeth Mrema is Executive Secretary of the Convention on Biological Diversity. Our correspondent Andrew Wilson asked her about what needs to be achieved.
To be able, I think, to understand what is needed to be achieved is to understand where are we globally today on biodiversity. In the sense that biodiversity is the foundation for our life. We all depend on biodiversity for our survival. It is the food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, the medicines we need, the livelihood, the cultural inspiration. I mean, when you look at all these, without which there will be no life. And yet, human activities have degraded 97% of biodiversity globally. Scientists have told us over 1 million species may go to extinction within this century at an unprecedented, and the loss of biodiversity is at an unprecedented rate in the history of humankind. We have degraded land over 75%, oceans over 66%, wetlands have disappeared or degraded 85%, 50% of coral reefs have already disappeared, and yet the global GDP, 50% of which is highly or moderately dependent on biodiversity. So our economic life globally is at risk as the result of biodiversity loss. So Montreal, what will be key is the adoption of the post-2020 global biodiversity framework to take us to that 2030 where we will be able to halt and reverse the loss of biodiversity.
So in terms of that roadmap, in terms of reaching some kind of actionable agreement, what sort of challenges stand in your way?
One is time, because this framework has been negotiated for the past 3-4 years. It has been delayed as the result of the pandemic. 2, this will be a global framework. A global framework basically expected to take into account and consideration all national interests of the 196 parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, to take into account the interests of all stakeholders, including indigenous peoples, local communities, the business, the financial sector, the women, the youth. So you can imagine all these coming to a negotiation table to agree on just one word, leaving alone the commas and the full stop, will not be easy. The other challenge is, of course, this framework will by and large try to build lessons from the previous targets we had, the 8 biodiversity targets, which globally we are not able to reach, and therefore learning lessons from that and be able to make a difference and make sure that the new framework will not repeat the same mistakes and that the new framework will really create that change of the relationship between human beings and environment, and biodiversity or nature, which we have contributed to its degradation by 97%.